Great to be here to talk with our friends at the Niagara Foundation and a number of our esteemed colleagues from the Consular Corps who are here today. Just to give a brief update of where we are planning for the NATO Summit, which will be held in Chicago. So we've got a nice PowerPoint. Many of you may know we're going to be doing a series of briefings over the next 5 weeks leading up to 4.5, but who's counting, leading up to the summit. And this is the briefing that we generally are starting to do for the larger groups around the city. So we cover a number of things, talk a little bit about what a great opportunity it is for Chicago, understanding NATO, key facts about the summit itself, special programming, what it means to be a national special security event, how the city is handling best practices on protests, logistics, communications, and then wrap up. So, you know, I spent a lot of time talking about what a great opportunity hosting the NATO Summit is for Chicago. It's really, you can't spend enough money on international advertising that the city has the opportunity to get for all the people that are coming into town. So it really is a terrific opportunity for the city to highlight its key attributes. You know, you travel around the world, everybody knows New York, everybody knows LA, not everybody knows what a great city Chicago is. So it's really a unique opportunity for us to show off what a beautiful, prosperous city that Chicago actually is. A lot of people don't know what NATO is. When we get to the end of this presentation, we talk a lot about NATO and its significance in the world and how its role has changed over time in terms of peacekeeping and economic development, rebuilding nations after they've experienced some of the tribulations that many of the countries have. Obviously, topics of the summit, which we locally don't have any control over, those are set by NATO itself, and they'll be published at the point when they agree on what those topics are. But obviously, Afghanistan, the Middle East, nuclear proliferation, those are all issues that NATO concerns itself with. Why are we the right city to host a NATO summit? Obviously, we're an economic powerhouse. We're a global city of major businesses. You know, some of the key companies that are headquartered here make us a logical location to host the NATO summit. We're a hub for international trade, O'Hare Airport, our position in the country in terms of rail and highway. We're really, and our strong international partners who are already here in the city of Chicago, and a diversified portfolio of industries. And it's really a good opportunity right now, considering the strength of our economy, to have this meeting here. So the when, where, and who. May 20th and 21st, the summit kicks off at approximately noon on Sunday, May 20th, at McCormick Place, and we'll wrap up at about 2 o'clock on the 21st. So it's literally a 26-hour meeting that takes place at McCormick Place. Sunday afternoon, NATO partner countries. Monday morning, slightly different agenda. We've got, we're expecting between 5,000 to 7,500 attendees. We know that there were some more countries invited in the last couple of days, so we're closer to the we're right about the 7,500 level. There's 28 member countries, 22 ISAF partner countries, and then some additional countries that have been invited to attend. We're slightly over 60 country delegations at this point. Additionally, there's a number of the NGOs that will be attending. The European Union, the United Nations, and the World Bank are all signed up to attend as well. So we'll have, in addition to those, we'll have approximately 2,000 members of the Foreign Press Corps here. And fortunately, we were able to encourage a single media hotel, so the vast majority of the media will be staying at the Hyatt Regency, so that we have the opportunity to really work with them to show off the city of Chicago, not just have them be in McCormick Place for the entire time that they're here. Some of the things that are happening in and around the summit on Saturday, we're hosting the city's annual kite festival. Has been branded as the NATO Kite Festival. Obviously, kites in Afghanistan are something that are culturally significant, so NATO's providing the flags for the kite festival. That's going to take place at Montrose Harbor in the morning on that Saturday. Additionally, very fortunate, our friends at the Cubs, Mr. Ricketts, we're hosting the Young Atlanticist at Wrigley Field that night. That weekend is the Crosstown, so it's Cubs Sox at Wrigley Field. So the Young Atlanticists are being hosted up at Wrigley Field with a lot of the Chicagoland entrepreneurs that are members of the Chicagoland Entrepreneurial Center. So it's going to be NATO night at Wrigley Field. It'll be a lot of fun. On Sunday, May 20th, in addition to the official functions that are taking place, I know that the White House has announced that the President and the Secretary General are hosting the leaders of the member countries at Soldier Field. The First Lady will have her dinner with the First Lady, with her counterparts at the Art Institute. The host committee is hosting 2 events. We're having a dinner for the ISAF countries at the Field Museum for the leaders of those countries, and then a reception for the many, many delegates that are here that night at Navy Pier. So there's a number of significant events going on Sunday night in downtown Chicago. Then on Monday, after the summit wraps up, after the last press conference takes place, giving the media time to file their stories, we're going to be hosting a reception for all the international media at Lucky Strike. And we've asked, I know that our press office is reaching out to all the local press here in Chicago to join with us to act as hosts for that event, so that we can really make a great impression on the media to not only go back to their home countries and tell great stories about Chicago, but to encourage them to come back to Chicago and visit, bring their families, and basically spend some time here. Some of the other programming that we're doing around the summit is we are hosting, in association with World Sports Chicago, which was left over from the legacy organization from the Olympic bid, along with the Chicago Bulls and the Chicago Fire. We're hosting an athletic event for 11 to 13-year-olds in the Chicago Public Schools. They sign up to participate on a basketball team or a soccer team. We're hosting a tournament, and the winners of those tournaments will be recognized in either a Fire or a Bulls game. So kids who sign up to play for a country, and let's just say they're going to sign up to play for Turkey. So they will learn about, we'll work with obviously the Turkish consulate, with the Turkish community, to really teach those kids about the country, expose them to issues that are of importance, expose them to food, and really, so they get a lesson in geopolitical interests as well as a sports opportunity. So it's really a great opportunity for kids in and around the city. The registration is at our website, and there's a phone number for questions at World Sports Chicago. This is going to be held the week before the summit on Saturday, May 12th, and it will be held in Washington Park. We're also working with the League of Chicago Theaters for the month of May. We want people to get out to experience a theater showing across the city. So if you go during the month of May, you can register to win a dinner on the League of Theaters, as well as backstage passes. Many of the staff delegations are coming the first and second week of May, and we'll be here for the 2 to 3 weeks leading up to the summit. So we want to get everybody out, get them in our theaters. And then finally, as was very apparent during our recent trips overseas, food in Chicago has surpassed architecture as a thing that everybody wants to talk about. So we're very fortunate to have a great partnership with the Illinois Restaurant Association. We created a great program called the Culinary Crossroads. And we've got over 100 restaurants signed up to participate in featuring the cuisines of many of the visiting countries during the month of May. So it's a great opportunity for dine around. The restaurants that are participating will be branded. You'll be able to see which ones are doing it. It's going to get rolled out here very, very shortly by the Restaurant Association. We're fortunate to have great partners in the public policy debates leading up to the summit. The Chicago Council on Global Affairs has been a great partner and is having a series of speakers about NATO leading up to the event. Next week, the city is hosting the World Summit of Nobel Peace Laureates. We're having the Global University Summit that the Chicago Council is hosting the week after. And then we have the U.S. African Trade Summit, and we have a Food Security Summit that's actually taking place on May 21st. So it really is a global Chicago during the next couple of weeks leading up to the summit itself. And then finally, I think one of the most exciting things that we're doing is working with the Chicago Public Schools to expose kids to the issues around geopolitics. We're very fortunate to have Secretary Madeleine Albright with us here last week. We took her down to Lindblom High School. She spoke to a class of juniors and seniors interested in foreign policy. They asked great questions. She had a great time. During the first week in May, we're going to be rolling out a curriculum in schools around the city on the issues around NATO and geopolitics. So kids in Chicago will have an opportunity to really be exposed to some of the important questions and issues that are going on in the world today. Additionally, we're doing a Welcome to Chicago video contest. We've rolled it out through all the principals in Chicago Public Schools. And I think the entries are due the end of next week, and the winning video will be featured for all the visiting delegates that are coming to the city of Chicago. So this is the part in our normal briefing where our consultants, Hillard Hines, get up and talk about what it means to be a national special security event. When you're designated as an NSSE, that puts the United States Secret Service at the top of the security planning pyramid. So they work very closely with their partners at the FBI and FEMA to come up with a construct in which the summit will take place. They partner with Chicago Police Department. Those are the two agencies that really lead, CPD and the Secret Service, to ensure that not only is it a great summit for the delegates that are visiting, but it's also a great event for Chicagoans, so that impact is minimized on everybody who lives and works in downtown Chicago. Usually, Chief Deb Kirby, who's the lead person for the Chicago Police Department, talks about how the police department's been training to handle the protests that have been registered with the city of Chicago. They've been very good. I can't say enough, putting on my former city hat, about the men and women of Chicago Police Department and how well everything has been handled here in the city of Chicago in this regard. You know, most people don't realize there's protests that take place downtown every single day. And in order, you know, most people aren't even aware of it. I think last weekend there was a big protest. Most people don't even know about it. So our hats go off to them for the way they've handled the Occupy movement, the continuing dialogue that the city has with those groups, so that we expect that people will continue to have their right to express their First Amendment rights. Freedom of speech is what makes America great, and that everything will go off in accordance with their opportunity to express their opinions, and Chicagoans' opportunity to live and work downtown will go uninterrupted. You know, we like to encourage everybody early on in this process. I think there was a lot of trepidation about this event, and I think the more that we've gotten out and talked about it, the more that our friends at Hillard Hines have talked about their experiences, I think most people feel very, very comfortable that Chicago is open for business. You know, a couple of days ago, the Secret Service announced that the trains would run under McCormick Place. So I think that that was a big question that was out there. Obviously, as it gets closer to the event itself, there will be a plan that will be rolled out. Chicagoans will be briefed on it on a daily basis leading up to the summit about any potential traffic or commuter impacts associated with the event itself. Will there be motorcades? Absolutely. There's a lot of world leaders here, but it's a very compressed time frame that those individuals will actually be in Chicago. The good thing is their staff's here for a very long period of time, staying in our hotels, eating in our restaurants, shopping in our local retailers. So it's a great opportunity for some economic development around the visit itself. An event footprint closures will be announced, so everybody knows about those. And I think it's fair to say that if a business is going to have been impacted, they would have been contacted by the Secret Service as of this date. There's 3 permitted parades. The nurses are having a march on that Friday, the 18th, in and around River North area, ending up in Daley Plaza. And then there's 2 marches that have been permitted for the afternoon of the 20th, the Coalition Against NATO and the Iraqi Veterans Against the War. So both of those, it's been public, it's available on the city's website. Those are 2 marches that have been permitted to take place Sunday afternoon in downtown Chicago. And as of right now, there's nothing permitted for that Monday. Public transportation will not only be normal, but there will be an enhanced level of service. And when we get to that point, CTA will be a major partner with the city in announcing what those enhanced services are as we get closer to the summit itself. There's a number of different ways we're encouraging everyone to stay up to date on what the latest transportation and logistics plans are. Gary Schenkel, who's the Executive Director of the Office of Emergency Management and Communications, encourages everyone in the business community to sign up for Chicago's Public-Private Partnership, or CP3, as they call it in the world of acronyms. And it's www.preparedchicago.org. So if you have a building or a business, you can register that with the city's OEMC. And it's a great public safety tool in any case, whether there's a summit or not. So it's good for first responders to take place. We're going to be running a business communications center out of the host committee. That will be set up the beginning of May. And the telephone number is right there, 869-8500. And it's through Hillard Heinz, and that's their website.com. So that so we will have that resource available to not only push out information during the summit, but also to take in any questions or concerns that happen. And finally, we encourage everybody as an individual to sign up for Notify Chicago. And it's a great tool. You can get it on your phone, on your email, and it just tells you, like, for example, if we're going to have a major storm, it'll put that storm warning out. It'll put information out about road closures, rolling road closures, when the vice president's coming to town, when we expect the highway to be closed. Those kinds of things are all available on Notify Chicago, and it's a great tool, even apart from the summit itself. So there's, a lot of questions about information sharing. I think we've said routinely that 2 to 3 weeks prior to the summit itself, Secret Service will be putting out what the footprints are. We're rolling out a transportation and logistics plan around that afterwards. Downtown visits during the event, what the public transportation schedule is, any marine and boating issues, airport activity. We expect a lot of traffic in and out that Saturday and that Monday, so that's something that we'll be putting out information on, and that normal city services will be held during the summit itself. And then finally, I encourage everybody to go to our website. It's NATOorg. We have the briefing schedule on there. If you look up under the tab, it says Chicago Residents. There's a briefing schedule for all the briefings we have planned between now and the summit. It's got information about programs. It's got great information for visitors that come. So if you know somebody that's coming in from your home countries, encourage them to go to our website. They can check to see what information, what programs are available, what restaurants are being highlighted. It links to a number of different other organizations, and it's a great resource for everybody. So, and then just finally, before we open it up for questions, I want to give particular thanks to the Niagara Foundation and working with us with the Turkish community in Chicago, because one of the things that we're working on, and Samira Jolly is here, is really reaching out to the individual communities in and around Chicago to host country-specific events leading up to or after the summit. So it's really a great opportunity to highlight the diversity of the city, to highlight all the countries that are represented here, and I want to thank everybody that's really participated in that regard. So with that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Public transportation information, traffic, airport activity is going to be, of course, available closer to when NATO hits. Is there a specific date for when that information will be?
No, I think everybody's really trying to target the first week in May, beginning of the second week in May. Obviously, it's very fluid. All the planning around these summits continues up until the very last possible moment. So the Secret Service has always said, 2 to 3 weeks out from the summit, that information would be released. When they're ready to go, we're ready to go with what the enhanced transportation plan is.
And of course, the security provisions and plans that are going to be in place, that's an ongoing process. Are there any particular concerns that you have?
Well, let me just say that from the very beginning of the planning process, the service has been a great partner with us. We've pushed very hard to make sure that Chicago's open for business, that that the business community and that residents have minimal impact during the summit itself. And it really is a very compressed time frame when protected leaders are in town. So service has been a great partner in working with us. Is there going to be traffic? Yes, there's going to be traffic, but what a cool opportunity to really see all the world leaders come to Chicago and move in and around downtown. So it's just for a very compressed time frame. They do this all the time in New York when the UN leaders come in. They do it all the time in Washington. It's not a big deal. It's going to be a very short time frame. It'll be a really great opportunity for the city. Yes?
Can you talk about the natural guide being used to help move some of the civil aspects?
Well, I'm not in the logistics and security planning side. I know that the Secret Service and the Chicago Police Department, who chair the Executive Steering Committee for Security, have reached out to agencies that there's a need for them during the summit itself. But, as Arnett Heinz, who's the former special agent in charge of the Secret Service in Chicago, says, they're not going to publish the security plan. There's a reason they call it the Secret Service. So, but that's, there's been dialogue with all the agencies that need to be involved at the federal, state, and local level in this. Yes.
First of all, I'd like to commend you for reaching out to the Chicago public students. I actually saw Taylor students making their video on the news last week. But secondly, have you reached out to the parochial and the private
We have.
school? Okay.
We have. Yes.
Any more questions?
Yeah.
I assume that many of the delegates that are coming here are not coming on regularly scheduled flights. Do you anticipate any delays or changes at O'Hare Airport?
Many of the delegates that are coming ahead of time. So they are coming on commercial flights. You won't even notice them. And quite frankly, we've had thousands of people in and out of Chicago over the last few months preparing advance teams. So I know for a fact that particularly, the liaison officers for each of the individual countries, many of the, this is a very compressed meeting. There's a lot of staff time to make sure that a 24-hour meeting goes off as planned, right? So everybody comes in ahead of time over a period of time. Will there be leader travel? Leader travel will happen at the end and at the conclusion of the summit. Many of those come in on private aircraft and are not expected to impact commercial traffic.
All right, thanks so much, Lori.
Thanks
for your time.
Thank you. The NATOorg Foundation is one of the local organizations that really is important in the city of Chicago. We're a global city of many, many communities, and the NATOorg Foundation really represents the Turkish community in and around the city of Chicago and the Chicago metropolitan area, and we're very fortunate to have them as partners with us. Our mayor says Chicago is the most American of American cities, and the Turkish community is a great partner with us and have always been a great partner. That's why I was so happy that Healey agreed to serve on the Welcome Committee for the city of Chicago. They are our ambassadors to all the NATO delegate countries when they come, and we've got about 70 people on it representing organizations, institutions, communities, and we're very fortunate to have the NATOorg Foundation be our partner.